Okay, what's going on in the world today? How about this? I know for things like Transport Canada, a lot of people are mad about things like not getting refunds, I guess, for their airplane tickets due to things like the pandemic. I know things like drone operations, creating prejudice laws, I guess you could say. Well, how about this one? This one says, investigation finds multiple employees spread a racist, violent email at Transport Canada. Multiple Transport Canada employees violated the government's code of values and ethics by sending emails containing racist and violent language at work more than a decade ago. A Transport Canada investigation has concluded. At first I was thinking over a decade ago. Wow, that's pretty old. At the same time, it takes over a decade to basically investigate this kind of report? Wow. It says the email contained a link to an offensive parody song called Strangers on My Flight, set to the tune of Frank Sinatra Number. The spoof features derogatory lyrics based on racial stereotypes about travelers wearing turbans. The lyrics also talks about harming travelers with baseball bats. Wow, what kind of leadership and stuff is in that place? The 10 Transport Canada employees who shared the email worked in aviation safety, the section of Transport Canada that oversees the enforcement of Canada's no-fly list with airlines. The program has been criticized for mistakenly flagging some Canadians, including children, as security risks because of their names. Almost sounds like they didn't really care too much overall to do, like, I guess, an investigation urgently. It says Transport Canada's Integrity Office acknowledges that while it initially launched 2 investigations that touched on that email, it did not fully investigate the email itself. It wasn't until after CBC News published a story in December 2019 about the email that Minister of Transport Marc Garneau ordered the department to launch a 3rd investigation. That probe found multiple breaches of government's values and ethics codes and a department policy and the use of electronic network. So apparently, I guess with this video, it was passed around internally and then people were replying according to this anyways, kind of like making a joke out of it. Like people saying, "This is great," said the email, which linked to a video of the derogatory song. "They should play this non-stop at all airports." And I guess according to this report anyways, to make it worse, apparently there was an employee that brought this to their attention and I guess they just ignored it. I mean, according to this, it says, "This is part of what makes it systemic racism." Renee Soterick said that's exactly what she did and she claims it ruined her career. Soterick says she received the email from Haynes in 2008 along with other employees and managers. She claims she spent years bringing it up at meetings and retreats only to be labeled a troublemaker and to be ostracized and sexually harassed on the job. Soterick says she left the public service because her workplace had become toxic. Haynes, meanwhile, moved on to a new posting abroad to improve women's participation in international peacekeeping operations according to his LinkedIn profile. "Shame on them," said Soterick.
Shame on them. They are indicating by their own admission that they've known about it since 2017. I personally forwarded this email to the Prime Minister's office. I personally forwarded it to Marc Garneau's office numerous times before it hit the CBC. They did not action it. Again, this is part of what makes it systemic racism. It's the cover-up. It's easy to say after the fact, after it's come to light, after the whole world knows about it, we wish we'd done this better. Excuse me, you were given many opportunities to do this properly. You were given opportunities from 2008.
But think about that. Apparently this person was responsible for things like aviation regulations, no-fly lists and all that. I mean, just think about that in terms of like anything else if they have like this kind of, I guess you could say, bias or prejudice towards specific groups of people.
CBC News reported then Transport Canada Superintendent Marc Haynes sent the song to colleagues in 2008 and wrote, "This is great, they should play this non-stop at all airports."
Honestly, it's quite ridiculous, and that stuff shouldn't take a long time to deal with it.
22-year-old student Adam Ahmed and his 2 brothers' names have been on Canada's no-fly list since they were children.
It's loud and clear that they need to fix this stuff. They need to fix it so the public can trust them again, especially with sensitive issues like security. I mean, these are people that oversee security, oversee the list that my kids are on.
Funny enough, it makes me think of that thought I had before where when I was talking to this one specific individual, like in Transport Canada, just about things like the air safety and all that, just the way that they talk to you, I was gonna say in my mind, you're either extremely biased and prejudiced because you're not even actually reading like the facts, like what's actually on that paper that's written there. And in my mind, it's like your next step is probably things like racism if you're that prejudiced and discriminating against certain people. So in that sense, I'm not surprised, honestly, like this is a thing there. I guess this is a debate too. Would you call that their quote systemic racism or no, it's something else? to me, it just makes so much sense. I mean, it's consistent. Like, you can even look at any other industry. Like, let's just say with things like, I don't know, like a drone or a toy one, for example. It's so prejudiced and discriminating. Like, the way the system is not even like really based on safety. It feels like it's more to control something, like a group of people, like in that case, so they can, I don't know, commercialize the whole industry and all that. This is why too, like for those who don't understand, like, I know like in the US they had that George Floyd thing that basically sparked like all this topic about racism and stuff like that, because stuff happens all the time. And usually, I guess like they say in this article, people just don't pay attention to it until it becomes like a big deal in that way. And then they'll say, okay, now we have to deal with it. So you can imagine how everyone has all these, I guess you could say, like facts and documentation of these incidents and abuse. And now they're bringing it up because they know, okay, people are listening. Makes me think too, because remember how I told you guys at the very end of last year, I said maybe I should have went through that video saying Transport Canada promotes prejudice and discriminating drone flight reviewers. Maybe I should have done it, because essentially it could be a bigger problem than what I think it is, as opposed to just like, I guess, like a few bad apples or whatever. Actually, it makes me think, if there are, like clearly, like from my example, there are these closed-minded or prejudiced drone flight reviewers associated with self-declared schools, so to speak, and with the topic of systemic racism, like in Transport Canada, since it comes from top down, are people going to start investigating whether or not certain, like, quote, drone schools are systemically racist as well? Makes me wonder. And I guess for a drone tech, this was kind of interesting. How is this? It says StoreDot demonstrates world's first 5-minute charge of a commercial drone, making continuous and fully autonomous drone delivery a reality. StoreDot brings ultra-fast charging UFC to the drone market for the first time, reducing charging times from a minimum of 1 hour to just 5 minutes. UFC overcomes 2 of the major barriers that have prevented the drone industry from realizing its full potential: the need for a man-in-the-loop to replace battery packs between missions and restrictions on where the charging stations can be located. It says when used the required ultra-fast charging stations, StoreDot flash battery technology drastically reduces drone charging times with very little trade-off in terms of energy density, meaning the flight time is only slightly reduced. Crucially, this is achieved at a price point that is competitive with the existing drone battery technology when the total cost of operation is considered. Sample cells are now available to drone manufacturers for testing. That's crazy. I guess we're getting there, huh? It's kind of exciting. Alright, See you guys later.